Welcome back to For a Cloudy Day, the podcast where we talk about the cloud technology industry with insights from experts. I'm your host, Simon Gottschlag, CTO of Conative, the home of cloud specialists. In today's episode, we're diving into the world of low-code and no-code platforms, how they are shaping the global market, how Sweden fits into this landscape, and what it means for professional developers. Joining me is Robin Iwarzon, Principal Cloud Solution Specialist at Asurgent, a leading cloud service provider in Sweden. Robin, it's great to have you on the show. Could you start by sharing a bit about your role at Asurgent and your experience working with Microsoft 365 and Power Platform?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Robin Iwarzon, working at a cloud specialist firm called Asurgent, specialized in Microsoft technology. I'm a cloud solution specialist and architect when needed, but I tend to stay within the specialist boundaries. My core expertise lies within the Microsoft 365 adoption services. That's where I think it's the funniest as well. But more and more, I explore the worlds of low-code, no-code, and especially within Microsoft Power Platform, part of the business application offer they have, so to say.
Let's start with a broad overview. How is the global market for low-code and no-code platforms evolving, and how does Sweden's adoption and innovation in this area compare to the global landscape?
I think it's booming, especially globally. The low-code, no-code sphere has grown exponentially over the last couple of years. There are a lot of different platforms and suppliers to this. We are especially focused, as I said, in the Microsoft sphere, in the Power Platform sphere. Globally, I think it has grown even more than we can see in Sweden and in the Nordic region. We can really hear about success projects and solutions created naturally at a globally wide. I hope we will get there as well in Sweden and Nordic within soon, but especially since the generative AI boom, we have seen a lot of more order flows coming our way within the platform. It's a very nice trend going on, and I hope to see a lot more of it in the soon future.
What factors do you think are hindering the adoption of these platforms in Sweden compared to globally?
My prediction is mainly that it's license-based. There are a lot of different functions and components you can use within these low-code platforms, and especially within Power Platform. If you choose to pay the extra sum and get the premium licenses, you can basically connect to whatever data source you desire. It can be on-prem, it can be another external source, it can be more within Azure. But if you do not and stay within your enterprise licenses, for example, you're basically bound to use those within Microsoft 365. So I think globally they have adopted this methodology of actually paying the premium licenses, and they have started to get 1, 2, 3, maybe 10 different solutions out there, and then naturally the cost goes down since it's a per user license. In Sweden and Nordic, we still tend to look at those initial costs to get into the cycle, and then the main project that looks at it needs to take that first step, and the first step is always expensive.
Licensing can often be a complex issue with the low-code platforms, especially in the context of enterprise solutions. What are some key licensing considerations that businesses should be aware of when adopting low-code tools like Microsoft's Power Platform?
So the licensing is something that we tend to bring up quite often, and it's also a complicated matter since Microsoft adjusts it ever so often. Right now, it's mainly a premium per user license, meaning that every user that touch a function that touch premium functionality needs to be licensed to be compliant around it. We have started to see more and more pay as you go. It's a concept where you basically only pay if a user use a premium solution. They can be licensed and be ready to use it, but if they don't touch it within a month, let's say, you don't pay for that user. And I think that concept makes it easier to get in there, because you can have a company of around 700 people, and let's say you need a license for everyone because they could potentially use a solution. But then it ends up being maybe 250 power users in there. And that would be a hefty sum to pay every month for something that's not used. So the pay-as-you-go will be an important factor, I think. But then when you finally find use cases and you can motivate the licenses on these per users, you will start seeing the effect as well, since it's only a sum per user.
When we talk about pay-as-you-go, does that mean that if someone creates a solution and only 2 users use this solution, then you only have to pay 2 licenses?
If they touch that solution would be the more accurate phrase to it. So as soon as they actually open it up, they need to pay for those 2. But if one of those users for 1 month do not touch it, they do not have to pay the fee for that specific.
There's often a debate between pro-code and low-code approaches. From your perspective, how do these 2 methodologies complement each other in modern IT environments? And where do you see the most significant advantages or challenges?
I think in the low-code where the time to market is really aggressive. We don't talk about projects being 400 or 500 hours and needing this pre-study. We can do a lot faster than that, and we can push it within months, maybe even weeks. Then of course you need some kind of governance plan and lifecycle management and everything that's included in the real delivery around it. But the time to market to actually start seeing that return on investment is what I think is really attractive. And also low code, no code is starting to be so available to what they call citizen developers. So me and everybody in the organization that don't have the head for real coding and trying to figure out what to solve all these red errors, we can see basically in a more visual graphical plane results right away that could inspire us to create more. And we can see how would this work in a solution or application automation without having to write thousands of lines of code. So I think that's the main advantage with low code. But also, as that's where it gets more advanced, it's bridging to the pro code or pro developer teams. And what I always tell our code experts are that if they choose, they can just utilize all this functionality as well. And that's the main difference between us. We can't go to their sphere and swim there and utilize all their tools, but they could not just as easily, but they can definitely dip into our sphere and utilize all the powers here. So I think in the future, and maybe even in 5 years, we will see a lot of mixture between this. I don't think we will see 2 camps, basically. I think we will see technology being utilized where the best fits, so to say. That's my vision for it. And I also think there will be a lot of non-IT personnel basically being developers within this. Maybe not doing all these hardcore functions, but doing the business needs and functions and entry-level parts of the solution.
Are there specific use cases or scenarios where one clearly outshines the other?
In general, I think you get the most of, basically, if you have a bigger system that you use yet small parts of, but those small parts have become business critical, that's where you can utilize low code or develop in general to take out those functions and build your own product around it, and then also shape it and develop it a bit further into what you actually need. So you don't need this mega program or functionality when you only utilize parts of it. And that's also one of our best or most successful use cases. Basically, customer specified solution or developed solution where they could use the functionality in the original service or program and just take that out, build on it, keep using it, develop it for their needs. I think it was some time ago now, but I think the cost for it, within 1 year of licensing money, they had developed their own solution that they can then live on and just pay the license fee for the Power Platform and the normal governance you need. So they really found a unique use case there and made it work within their organization.
So what you're saying is that you can a lot of times go from starting with low code or no code and then migrate or move away parts of that no code, low code solution into perhaps pro code when needed. So you can build your proof of concept or your MVP in the Power Platform. And when it becomes necessary, you can actually move some of those parts into another solution.
Exactly. You could utilize basically the platform that best fits the need. Low code and no code can be extremely fast to building this proof of concept. You see, okay, our idea or our concept around this will work, but we might need some also pro development to get some functions in place. But it's also getting more available now. Before, you couldn't open up these apps and flows in, let's say, Visual Studio. Now you actually can do it. It's way past my knowledge out there, but it's once again connects the pro developer team to actually integrate and work with the low code solution. I think in their preferences are not there yet, but I think they will change their mind in the future. So let's see how it develops. And I would say, especially within the generative AI sphere and Microsoft Copilot, you see a lot of mixed projects where you can have the front end in low code and all the basic functionality there. And then you go to a backend built by pro code or functionality within the backend that you just borrow into the low code solution.
At Asurgent, how have you been leveraging low code platforms to deliver solutions for your clients? Can you share a success story where low code made a significant impact on a project or organization?
Yeah, so it could be good to know that I started my low code journey maybe 4 years ago. And that's where I got the inspiration from my previous employer, that it could be so easy to create something that made value in the organization, business value. And that's what we have then kept on building on within Asurgent, find these cornerstones of solution that can actually drive business value at a kind of fast pace and lower price, at least. And one of those success stories, a medical client in the clinic. And so we basically help them break out from a bigger system and then create a specialized solution for them to digitally onboard personnel to their clinics that help they coordinate all their work and assignment to get it just like they wanted, more efficiently, like they had before. So I say that is probably the biggest success story, but then the most common solution that we actually sell or implement at partners and customers for provisioning solutions. But when you create something at mass, it could be a Microsoft Teams team, it could be a SharePoint site, it could just be a regular Office 365 group. But if you don't have any structure around there, naming conventions and so on, it will get a mess. It will get a mess quite quickly. The Microsoft 365 platform is built around collaboration and empowering the user to create what they need to do this. And I know for myself that when you're using something, you just want to get started and get going. So you maybe don't have all that consideration with labeling and naming convention. The solution that we sell is basically creating Microsoft Teams, a SharePoint site, via engaged communities and so forth, and helping the user to do all the necessary stuff with setting a name that makes sense for themselves, a description and members and classification and so on, without having thousands of questions. And we do a lot of baking in the backend. So they pick the resources they need, then we provision it more safely and structured. So it fits and makes the IT people a little bit happier, at least.
Looking forward, where do you see low-code, no-code movement heading in Sweden? Are there any emerging trends or technologies that you believe will influence its growth and adoption?
I think we are on a good trend lately. We've seen an inflow of requests increase. We're of course happy and pleased with that. It has been a trend that I tried to predict a couple of years ago. It took a little bit more time than I thought it would. So it's a welcome trend. And I also think it's nice to see colleagues working within infrastructure, both internal and external colleagues, who start utilizing the platform and figuring out that it could be just a basic flow or a basic app, basic automation, but they find the components and save time, basically. And that, I think, will expand and explode as soon as people realize that the tools are there and at least the standard connectors and standard functionality are included so far in the enterprise licenses that it's available. Then it's, of course, a matter of governance, and the platform owners need to be there, need to understand this growth. But we see when the boom happens, it really happens and it spreads across the organization because everybody wants to save time and everybody has an idea around it. And I also think, as I was into before, the generative AI and everything in the AI sphere is gonna rocket ship this. It has become so easy to deploy something that took a lot of hours before. So now even us in the local sphere struggle to keep up with the push and the organization need and request for this. And now when we have all these examples in OpenAI and ChatGPT, and people without IT knowledge at all utilize their services and get amazing results. But the expectations also go up. They expect that it should just be this easy. So we need to preach that, and then we can rocket ship together.
How is Asurgent preparing for these future trends? And what advice would you give to companies considering a shift toward low-code development?
First of all, we are hiring more and more personnel around it to not give the answer that we can take a request right now. We have been preparing a lot for this, and finally it happens, so it feels amazing. And then we are searching and doing our best effort to structure up everything once again, so we can utilize and revamp and just make sure that the things that we build can live up to the expectations. So we can reuse where we can, but also recreate and be inspired by previous solutions. We can just keep on building better components, better solution, and just delivering better results around it. And I think for those wanting to dip into the no-code sphere, start easy. Don't try to build this mega app or big mega solution. Find a use case that within your organization would save you a lot of time. It could be as easy as input data into some kind of unstructured data source. Use Power BI, utilize and transform data and visualize it. So find this small use case. Don't try to build something mega cool at your first attempt.
Start small and build something from there.
Exactly.
Thanks for those insights, Robin. To recap, we've explored the global and Swedish landscapes of low-code, discussed the balance between pro-code and low-code, and touched on critical licensing considerations. Robin, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners who are either currently using low-code platforms or are considering them for future projects?
Yeah, I think we touched a lot around the licenses and how to get involved with it. Often you start and then you get stuck and then you lose your interest in it. There are amazing forums around this that actually Microsoft built. So that it's their forums, but empowered by all the users and creators out there. Often you're not the first to build your solution or that kind of type of solution. Somebody figured it out, and then you can take some part of it and just maximize it for you. So don't be shy on actually going out there and reading and trying to figure out what has already been done, so you don't smack your head into the wall trying to solve something that's already there. Utilize the forums and then just empower yourself.
Thank you, Robin, and thanks to everyone for tuning in to For a Cloud a Day. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your network. To our listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Are there other topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes? Or perhaps you know someone, or even yourself, who would make a great guest on the show? Reach out to us through our social media channels and let us know.